Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on this topic of labels and legacy. I am so happy that you ladies are joining me today on this discussion for the Uncut Thread chat. I really appreciate each one of you for joining me today. I have with me Wanita Armbruster, Jerry Cook, and Rhonda D. Flemings. Thank you so much, ladies, for participating in this week's discussion. Our topic for discussion today is about the labels we put on our quilts. The question is, does unlabeled quilts diminish a maker's legacy? So we're going to have that discussion on that topic. And we're going to go in alphabetical order. So when it's your turn, Miss Wanita would be first. Please just share a little bit about yourself and your thoughts about labels and legacy. Okay, you're up now, Miss Wanita.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. At least I don't necessarily know that an unlabeled quilt will diminish the legacy. However, I do really believe that we need to label our quilts. And the reason I say that is because I'm someone looking at my quilt later, if I'm not there, to know who quilted, a little bit about why the quilt was made and presented, the year, the time frame that it was done. So I think it's important because it's just like if you're painting a picture, you always are going to put your signature on that picture to make sure that it is clear to everyone that is yours. So I do believe in labeling quilts. And I have to say, too, that the type of label you use or what you say may be different for all of us. And it is almost different for every quilt. I was looking at something trying to determine how to have some labels made, but I can't do that because every label is going to be or say something different.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Yes. So before we share your quilts, just share a little bit about yourself and your quilting journey, if you don't mind.
I started sewing as a very young girl. In fact, my mother said I made paper dresses I made cloth dresses for paper dolls.
Mhm.
So I've always had this love of fabric. It's really about the fabric and the colors. So I started sewing very, very early. My mother was not a seamstress. She did mend and repair things. And then I majored in home economics in college. My true love or my first major was really clothing. And then I got my degree in clothing and retailing and then home economics education so that I could teach. So I really started quoting. I don't even know why I did what I did, to tell you the truth. I had a daughter who was in kindergarten, and her teacher was leaving, and I wanted to do something special for the teacher. And so I just thought, okay, I'm going to have all the kids draw a picture, and I'm going to transfer that picture to fabric, and I'm going to put that together, and I'm going to make her a quilt and give it to her. And that was really the first one. Why I chose that, I have no idea because it's been so long ago.
Okay.
But after that, I might have dabbled a little bit with quilting, but I really just became, I would say, serious uh, during COVID when I joined Quilt African Fabric Tribe.
Mhm.
That's my story.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story, and you're able to reflect on what got you started, kind of, sort of, and even if you don't remember exactly what it was, because time goes by and we do forget, but it's all
Yes, it
good.
does.
But you're here now with us, so we're gonna show your quilts, and you can share with us why you labeled them the way you did and whatnot. So we can start the slide, please. It's coming up. while we get our little slide going. We are grateful for the technology. Sometimes technology takes a minute to get it together, as I was experiencing a few minutes ago. But we're here and we're going to share. Okay. Chin is working on the backgrounds for me. Thank you, Chin.
Thank goodness for Jen.
Yes, thank goodness for Chin. Chin to the rescue. Yeah, so that's a good way to look at it, that you don't think they necessarily diminish the quality of the quilt. But but it is important to label them. So you can share with what you like on this particular quilt
So
that you.
this was a challenge with Quilt African Fabric Tribe. It was a 30-day challenge. Miriam loves to challenge us because she says we have all of those unfinished projects. And so by challenging us, it pushes us to get things finished. So I'm happy to say I actually did finish this, not in 30 days. I actually did get the top finished in 30 days, but not the entire quilt. So this is my African Queens, and I'm an AKA, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. I am golden, Jerry, and so the year I made this was 2022. Is when I actually finished, but I had just received my golden soror, and so I actually made all of the queens with pink and green, and then I did two gold crowns to represent myself as a golden soror. And this was done in 2022. I think I started it before Christmas in 2021. And it was not until after Christmas that I actually got a chance to quilt it, and I actually hand quilted it.
Oh, wow. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
I will tell you that I'm still hand quilting it, okay? Because I just you sit on the sofa and I say, oh, what could I do? And I say, I'll just add some hand stitching to this quilt. Now, this is one of my special ones. This is my family. My last name is Embroidered. That's my husband's name. My last name was Williams. So I actually designed, I pieced and hand quilted this. Now, the embroidery is very important to me because it was done by a friend. Her name is Tammy Cotton. Tammy has a beautiful embroidery machine, and I keep saying I'm going to buy one, but I probably won't because it does not really interest me, and I don't want to spend that much money. That's really the key. And so Tammy says to me, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I was at her house. And so she and I would go on the website, find the embroidery font, find the digital prints that we wanted. And so this basically is my family's history because it has birth dates and it has pictures of everybody on the important people on this side of my family. My husband, my children on one side, my husband's family on one side, and then mine on the other. So I thought that was important that I actually labeled that, and that was done in 2014.
Very nice.
And my granddaughter loves it. So I promised to give it to her when she finished college, get a job, and get a place to live. Because down in the corner, she actually drew this little picture here, and we had to put that on. My grandson was like, I don't know why you want to put that in there. And she was only, I guess, 6 or 7 at the time, but we put that in there. So it showed something about everyone.
Yes.
This one was a quilt top. Like I said, my mother did not sew on the sewing machine, but she actually did sit with her needle and thread, and she would sew things together. And so when she actually sewed this quilt top together, I can't tell you when. It might have been when I left to go to college, but when I came back home, she showed it to me, and I held to it, so none of my siblings knew I had it. So my mother made the quilt top, and then I went to my first G-Spin quilting retreat,
Mm.
and I took my sister Lucille with me, and I said, Lucille, we're gonna finish this quilt. And she, I don't sew, she said. I said, never mind, we're gonna finish it. So we went to the retreat and we actually started. And Marianne Petway, the G's Ben quilter, actually started the hand stitching for me in one corner. And I was off and running. And then I took it back home, and some of my other sisters who are in the picture actually helped in hand quilting. But I started this, I would say I finished it, or I took it to Canton, Mississippi, to the quilting retreat, and that was in September of 2017. So I want my siblings to be able to look at that later and see, uh, that they actually helped with that and what year it was done.
Yes, I mean, and it spells out the legacy behind it, and so you're able to, know who was there and what was done with
Right.
it, and so that's important to label, and it's labeled lovely. Mhm. Okay.
And I have to say with my labels, because I basically have put them on the computer and run them on the fabric sheet,
Hmm.
and then I will stitch them. I'll iron them down first, and then I will stitch them down. This one is a challenge from Quilt African Fabric Tribe, and I refer to it as my childhood journey. And this was one of the first challenges that Miriam posed to us when I started the tribe during COVID in 2020. And she said you have to use all African fabrics except for at least 75 to 80%. So she sent me all of these fabrics that you're looking at. The only ones that are not African fabrics would be the yellow that you see and that green. Those were just solid cotton colors. So I love this because I did the machine sewing for the pieces, but I appliqued that church that's in the middle.
Hmm.
It's actually appliqued on a backing, and then I did the piecing around it. And you'll notice that there's really no real pattern to it. So it took me quite a while to actually piece that and determine what I wanted. So I wanted you to know that it represents my childhood journey. And my siblings all know that church was a big part of our childhood. And so the blue part on the bottom represents the baptismal lake where we were baptized. And I actually turned it to the back, and I put all of the pieces that I had, every piece of fabric I had from Miriam for that challenge, I used in this quilt.
Nice.
And so that was done in November of 2020.
Very nice. Very nice.
Now, Miriam is showing you right now the journal that, Lisa is showing the journal that Miriam from Quilt African Tribe produced, and we bought this journal from her. So, in addition to my labeling, I use this journal to actually tell the story about my quilt. So, I go into a little bit more detail and I put it in the journal. And then I will print a picture of the quilt and I will attach it to the pages in the journal as well. So I feel like that's something that my daughter loves it. She loves to pick it up and read it. Mommy, you just love to write. And she said, so she could look at this and say, okay, let's see what that story is really about in terms of that. So I use this in addition to labeling my quilts. But I think it's really very important because we want that story to be able to be told at some point in time.
Absolutely. And those that will come after us, or the generation after us and thereafter that, will be able to go back and read these journal entries and read the labels on the quilts, and know the reasoning behind why you did what you did. And so it definitely is good for legacy, to label and to show your work and get credit for the work that you've done. So beautiful, beautiful work, my dear. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And next up, we have Miss Jerry Cook to share with us.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me. I have a very extensive quilt journey. I am a third generation quilter. And like you, Wanita, my sister, I think your sister quilts with you, the one that went to the retreat. So my sister also is a third generation. It was my great grandmother, skipped my mother. I went to my grandmother, then skipped my mother, who was a seamstress. So my mother was always my binder, but she never made a quilt. And so that's been my history. I started with my grandmother in Vacation Bible School, where she taught us how to do things with our hands. I grew up with her doing quilts in the front room with the horses, where it was all stretched out, and she did everything by hand. I made my first full quilt when I was in my 20s, but didn't have a lot of time to devote to that because I was married and devoted to my career and my children. But I would, when special times would roll around, I would create quilts for people at work who had babies or a wedding. And so over the last, my lifetime, I have made from 275 to 300 quilts of all sizes. And so that's my history with quilting. As I address the question as does unlabeled quilts diminish the legacy or the quality, I don't think that not having a label does anything with the legacy in terms of being of value, being of something worth. But what I think it does not do, it won't tell the story of the quilt. I don't think it will share the personal and emotional value that was put into the quilt because labels also often tell the story of that quilt when they're detailed. It also won't identify the quilter. Many people, you'll go to quilt shops and festivals and you'll see quilts that they will be selling, but those quilts won't have the name of the quilter. And people often want to know, for historical reason, who was the quilter. Also, it won't preserve history if there's no label. The quilts will eventually become unknown. People will die out, and there will be no specific link to those people who created it. Often quilts will have care instructions on them, and that's very important for the older quilts because if you have to repair them, you cannot use the same fabric of the current culture, of the modern culture. It destroys the fabric and it's also very, it gets very fragile.
Mm.
So once you know information about that quilt, particularly the older quilts, what fabrics were used, when it's time to repair them, you can do a better job of repairing them because you have the history of the quilt. And also it provides it when you don't have the label, it doesn't have that signature touch that quilter put into the quilt. And so while it doesn't diminish the legacy, the quilt is still beautiful, it still has value. It does take away from the historical perspective of a quilt when you don't have it labeled. And I must say for us, for African Americans, it's very important because for some reason we have lost our stake over time in the getting our props for making quilts because we have not done the proper labeling, legacy naming kind of thing. And we know that we have Dr. Carol Mazlumi, she's very intentional about making sure that we record our legacy of quilts because much of our history has been lost because we didn't.
Very good. Thank you for that exhaustive explanation, which gives me a lot to ponder because I'm not I have it's informative and thank you for sharing that. And so now we look forward to seeing your work that you've done and talk to us about your labels on your quilts.
This particular quilt was during, and I think in 2021, what year is it? 2021, I reached out to the African American community of quilters on Facebook and asked if they would participate in what was called a showcase during Black History Month. So I asked them to find a location in their hometown or wherever they were and ask if they could showcase a quilt. And so we had, and I created a Google document where everybody's quilt was done. And so it was really wonderful. We had about 30, 35 quilters who actually sent me pictures of their quilt. I created a little journal of it, and we sent it out, Facebook, so that people could see what people and where they had hanging them. And so this is called Grace in actually, this is the wrong label, but this is actually called Grace in Motion. And this was at mine was at a elementary school. And so it was really nice. The principal cordoned it off and had anyway, the things that keep it people from touching it. And it had so much inquiry. They wanted to know about the fabric. They wanted to know about how the children were so engaged. She said they would just be standing around trying to figure out, what are those ladies doing and where is that? And so that was a lot of fun creating that. And that's called Grace in Motion.
I'm sorry for the mix up on the labels.
No worries, no worries.
Okay. Beautiful quilt.
This is called All of My Wonderful Colors, and this is a Bargello. This was from a pattern. And so at one time, before the pandemic, two of my friends who are part of my quilting group would come to my home on Thursdays or Fridays, and we would quilt from like 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And every kind of, what I'm gonna say, quarter, we would come up with a quilt that we wanted to make. And so I always wanted to make a Bargello. And so I said, hey, ladies, let's make a Bargello. And so they joined us. And what we did is you had to, with the Bargello, you have to do values. You have to choose your values, not about colors, about values. So we spent about 3 weeks bringing in all these fabrics, trying to identify what our colorway was going to be. And it was so much fun. But we each ended up with a different colorway. But at the same time, the love and joy of creating this quilt with these two other ladies was most amazing. And so this is called All of My Wonderful Colors. And we did it in 2017. The piecing was done by me. My mother, who's a binder, she did my binding, and she did professional binding. And she actually taught my quilting group how to do invisible binding. And so now I'm a cheater. I hate to bind. I do it on the machine. But I miss my mom. She passed away in November of last year, and so at 95. But she stopped doing my bindings probably 2 years earlier. But she did. I'd have a Judy Niemeyer. She did. I have a Trip Around the World, and all of my heirloom quilts that are valued were bound by my mother. And that's another thing I want to say about labeling your quilts. It adds value to the heirloom nature of it, and it adds value to it. So that's another reason to label your quilts.
Nice.
I also have my quilter is Karen Shively. She is award-winning quilter, and she's done probably most of my quilts. And she didn't do this one. She did this one, but I did the other one that I showed you before. And then my last quilt is which one is it? This is actually Parallel Universe. This was a virtual class with 3 engineers, Guyleen Fitzgerald, Latifa Safir, and also Ebony Love. And what these 3 ladies did together, they decided that they were going to join in doing a modern quilt, and they were going to call it Parallel Universe. The interesting thing is that I believe we had 9 to 12 classes of this. It was all virtual, and each one would come in, and we had tools for them. They each had their tool, and so all of this was sent to your home. And what we actually ended up doing was having classes with these 3 different engineers with very different concepts of how the quilt would end up. And so what you see is really kind of a truly modern quilt, but the creative mind of 3 amazing African-American engineers. And so this was Parallel Universe, and I did everything. I did the piecing, the binding, and the backing. Now, a lot of times what I like to do is I like to take fabric from my quilt top and kind of integrate it into my label. But in this particular instance, just trying to get the label on, what I did was I actually fused it. I did not sew this down. I actually fused it to make sure that I had a label. So what I am going to go back and do, I am going to go back and kind of stitch around it, because over time it probably will be some issues. But I do use Color Fast, where you rinse it off and it sets the ink, because in my original labels I did not do that. So now I have some labels that I can't see because I didn't use the right products, but now I've learned, and so I'm doing a better job. So that's my story about my quilts and my labels.
Very
You
nice.
said you use color fast, Jerry?
Yes, color fast.
That,
Color fast. And so what it is that it is the you sew it on, but when
mhm.
you print it through your ink, and you can use an inkjet. It doesn't have to be a laser. You print it through your inkjet, and then you run it under cold water. You dry it off, and then I kind of just iron over it to kind of let it totally dry, and then it will last for years. It will last for years. Yeah.
So color fast is a liquid that
No, Color Fast is a sheet, is a fabric sheet. It has fabric on one side, and then it has the sticky on the other side. So you run it through your inkjet, you peel it off, then
okay.
you run it under the cold water. And then, if you have, I usually put, two or three labels on there. So or two, at least two, and you just cut it with a rotary cutter to make sure it's even. And then you just let it dry. And I usually run a warm iron over it to make sure it's dry, and then you can apply it. And so I have quilts that I did, 15 years ago. I can still read them very clearly, very,
Oh,
very clear after washing.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, is that a June Taylor? Is that June Taylor with the
Yes,
color
it's June
fast?
Taylor.
Oh,
And
okay.
she
Yeah,
has
yeah.
two kinds. She has two kinds. She has the one where you can actually fuse it on. That's not color fast.
Okay.
Okay. So the one that's color fast, you actually have to sew it on. But like I said, you could do like I did. I did fuse this one. It is fused down, but I'm going to go back and tack it, to make it a little bit, more secure. But right, it's not moving. I tried. It's not moving at all. But it just over time, washing, I just want to make sure that it stays stable.
Yes. And do you always run your labels through the inkjet printer
Yes,
or yeah,
I do.
you
I
always do?
do. Because I can create, as you can see, on this one, I have a little flower.
Mhm.
But a lot of times, the other things that I have done with mine, and a friend taught me this, is that she actually took a picture of the front part of her quilt.
Mhm.
And then when she got ready to do her label, that was the border. She took that picture that she had taken and she made that her border. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I've done that as well. But you have to kind of you have to kind of manipulate you have to adjust the ratio and kind of manipulate it and everything. But anyway, it's a good way to make it interesting,
Yes.
make it really interesting. So if I'm going to give something away, I kind of do the labels a little more fancy.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Beautiful work.
Jerry, that was good information, and I learned something. So I may have to go back and redo some things with the color fast
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
to make
learned
sure
from,
it lasts.
yes,
Yes.
yes, that's the thing, is that one of the things is that a lot of times I've also embroidered my labels, but ooh, that took just a
Mhm.
lot. It took too much time. And I know that other people who do embroidery, they will do your labels for you. You can even send it out. They'll do your labels for you. But I think that takes away from the history and the story, because a lot of times I want to tell a little bit more than just having my label and the date and all that. I want a little bit more of the story. But I did try that, and it worked. It worked well with one of my quilts. But then I felt at the end of the day, what did I do this for? So I really like the historical perspective of the labels. I like for them to be attractive, but I also like to kind of tell a story so that later on somebody will see it and just know, when I did it.
Yes, and your style of labeling, Jerry, it's definitely you give a lot of details and it tells the
Mhm.
story. And
Yeah.
so it seems it would
Mhm.
be easier to print them through your inkjet printer like you do,
Yeah.
so that you're able to, put quite a bit of information on there. And so they came out beautiful. And everybody has their own style or what they
Oh yeah.
like. When I show my little few that I've done different ways, but I do well, when I get to my part, I'll talk a little bit more. But Rhonda is up next. And Rhonda, I wanted to say thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And Rhonda's quilt labels are beautiful. And I saw her on Facebook because she had posted a picture of one of her quilt labels. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I reached out and here she is. She's really not into she's kind of shy, shall we say, but she's here. So thank you, my dear. I appreciate you. And I loved your beautiful labels. So just share with us about your labels. So, and a little bit about yourself first, please.
Okay. I'm not a great talker, but I've been a seamstress almost all my life since 1970. So I make all my clothes. Uh, I lost track for 20, I lost time for 20 years because I got into desktop publishing.
Mm,
So when the COVID came in, I had to do something. So I got back into sewing. So my BFF was the one that got me into quilting. I told her I was not gonna do no quilt. I was cutting too many pieces. But now I love it. I love quilting and everything. So I basically do for my family and special friends. It all depends
mhm.
and everything. I do not hand sew anything. My hands is allergic to hand sewing. My mother used to do those things for me and everything. And, and I do have a journal. And I take pictures of everything that I do.
Mhm.
So I apply it to the journal, and I have the story in my journal, not on my quilting, and everything. But I love quilting. And my s- I'm in one girl and one sewing class, which is my sister. She teach sewing, so she does marvelous work and everything. In fact, she's one of the Chicago designer here and everything, but she's busy.
Mm,
She's busy, and that was two things my mother told us we had to learn how to do when we was growing up. We had to learn how to sew, and we had to learn how to type. So this is how my sister and I both got into sewing, and seemed like we stuck with it and everything. And I enjoy sewing and everything.
good.
So that's a little bit. I only been quilting for 4 years,
Oh,
but I'm a seamstress, so I know a lot about sewing. Just learning how to learn quilting and everything. So
well, when we look at those quilts that you're going to about to show us, I don't know. Oh, we'll go on to her slide. So,
So this is my boho heart. This was a class project, 7 months. One of my classmates decided, we learn how to do this. It was online. It was like 100 people
mm,
was doing this and everything. And as you can see, I have a lot of African. I'm into African. I got a lot of African material. So I buy a lot of my labels at Etsy. I
mhm,
love embroidery. So all my labels are embroidered. So and when I was doing my desktop publishing, my name was created designed by Rhonda D. Fleming. So everything that I do, that's what I put on my quilt.
nice.
And at the quilt store, they do the quilting for me.
Okay.
Cause this one was kind of large and I couldn't do this on my machine at all. So I send it out for them to quilt and everything. So this is one of my favorites. I
Mm,
don't have a lot because like I said, a lot of my relatives got the quilt. So
mhm.
I only have like 3 or 4 right now.
Nice, beautiful. Okay, next one. Yes.
As you can see, this is one of my uncles. Now all my family will get this particular symbol, a quilt of strength and love by family. So if I make anything with the family, they will get that particular logo on back of their quilt and everything. This piece of material was my mother. My mother had just passed almost 5 years, and all my uncles was crazy about my mom. So I thought to make a panel out of this this fabric and everything, and I just created a border going
Mm,
around it and everything. So this particular one, because this is a lap quilt
mhm,
and everything. So I did put my name in. I did quilt this one, and it was for my uncle. and everything. So I did this in April 22, which he didn't want to show it to nobody else in the family.
He was afraid that they were going to try to snitch it, but you have his
But
name on it, so they couldn't get it because they had
I
Uncle
told
Edward's name on it.
they couldn't take it because it has his name on
Right.
there.
There you go.
But he said no, he wasn't going to show it to anybody. But this is, and I can't duplicate because I didn't write down the fact or how I did this. I just pieced it together.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, next one, Chin.
Now this is, it's kind of light, but this Bargello, this is one of my favorite ones. This is one of my church. Remember, I'm a officer at my church, and she always backs me up. And this is how I show my appreciation to my friend. And she's an AKA, so I tried to use a lot of her colors in there. Oh, but now this one, I just made up the word. It's no special. It's fabric. All my quilt labels, it's the same fabric as my backing.
Mm-hmm.
And everything. And as you can see, I use almost the same wording I made specially by me. And I was put their names on there also. And then I did this, oh yeah, in 2024,
Nice.
December 2024. And I rarely show anybody my okay, I'm into kind of got it mixed up a
Yeah,
little
well,
bit.
you know what I did? I'm sorry. What I did, I sent pictures of so we could see your
Okay.
logo inside your bags, and
Okay.
so yeah.
Okay. I'm into tote bags and purses.
Mm-hmm.
And everything I do or I get, I'm going to put my names. My name is always on. The one especially by Selena Whitefield, that was a quilt and everything. I did I can't think. I have names for my quilts and everything. But that's one. And then this purse, as you can see, I embroidery with my initial R, and then that's inside the label, inside the lining. That's my label for my inside my purse and everything. And I did another quilt for another uncle, and he's in My mother's from Nashville, so I have purchased some Nashville fabric and everything, and also he's a musician, so it's like combined. And this is what back of his label looks like and everything. I'm embroidery crazy. I have like over 200 um, embroidery and fonts, so I love doing embroidery. Put people names or initials on there. Now I will do for the tote bags and purses. I will make for other folks. Quilts, it's a long. I always tell people I'm still working, so I don't do a lot of quilts at all. But I will do the purse and tote bags and everything.
Well,
So
at the end of the day, everyone does whatever it is they feel led to do and what brings them enjoyment. And so the fact
yes,
that you also use your labeling on your work that you do,
mm,
whether it be through for the purses or
mm,
whatever you choose to do that brings you joy, it's beautiful. And I love the fact that you use your embroidery machine because you enjoy that aspect of sewing and creating by way of embroidery, and you put it on your quilt labels and they're
yeah,
beautiful, and it makes it very special because they're beautiful, wonderfully
yeah.
designed. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
and again, I appreciate you sharing with us today. I didn't have to twist your arm too much, but you were.
No,
Beautiful, Rhonda.
thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So, all righty. So I'm up next. All right, so been quilting for a few years, 14 years now almost, and I love it. And so I've introduced myself a number of times from hosting these chats. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to participate in the Uncut Threads, and I'm just grateful that I have a pastime that I enjoy. And so here I am. But this particular quilt was done in 2023, and I made it in honor of my maternal grandmother, and her middle name was Magaline. And so obviously it's handwritten, and yeah, I didn't I label everything, but I do it different ways. Sometimes I write them in, sometimes I, use other kinds of formats to get the label on, but I do label everything. And most all my labels get a butterfly as my little logo, my little symbol. It's usually on there somewhere, but this particular one I just went with hearts. And my grandmother loved gray. I mean, excuse me, she loved red and she loved elephants. And so that's what this elephant received, this artwork received. And so that's my label, a label that I wanted to show that how I do handwrite them in. And the next one is a piece that I did in collaboration with my husband, and this was artwork, a painting that he did, and we turned it into a quilted wall piece, art wall hanging, and so on the back of this particular label is Cricut. So I cut out the vinyl in Cricut, and it's heat transfer vinyl. And so just created the label, and then me with the QR codes. I decided to put this particular song, how great is our God, as based on Psalm 145. So a lot of my labels have scripture references to them. Sometimes QR codes. There's a butterfly and the cross. So I'm always embellishing things and jazzing up stuff and putting bling. And the fact that it's a wall hanging, I will use the heat transfer vinyl because it won't get washed. And I'm okay with it. If I were to make a quilt, I would not use the heat transfer vinyl, even though it does withstand washings, as if like a t-shirt, you can wash it, heat transfer vinyl on a t-shirt. So it can be washed, but I wouldn't use heat transfer vinyl on a functional quilt. But my art quilts, I do use it on my labels. So that was
Lisa, could you explain I don't know, I don't understand what's the QR code about?
so if you scan the QR code with your phone, it will play it's always music on mine, and so it will play
Oh,
that particular song. So if you
okay.
just hold your camera up on from your phone or your device and hover over the QR code, then the song will play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
it's a YouTube video,
Okay.
and it takes you to that particular song. I think that was probably a CC Winans song. I think that was her rendition of it. I think I can't remember now. That was 2023, so that was 3 years ago almost, and I can't remember. But anywho, so that's that. Um, okay, so the next one. Jen, thank you. This one was done recently, last year. We and I put this label through my inkjet printer. So this one was done via inkjet printer, and I typed because I was able to put quite a few words on it. So if I were to write it out, my handwriting wouldn't, all of those words wouldn't work out too well. And since it is not going to get washed, I didn't use the color fast, but now I know to use the color fast for something if I were to wash it. So thank you for that tip, Jerry. But this one was just a quilt wall hanging that I made in honor of my first lady, who unfortunately we lost last year. And we had a event where we had a hat show. She loved hats and everything, and so we did a little fashion show, a hat show, and I we gave this in honor in her memory to a women's organization, a local women's organization, to honor her in her memory. So so I made it on behalf of the women's ministry at my church. And but so again with the QR codes, and these songs are about women empowerment and whatnot. So I just wanted to show that that particular label was done through an inkjet printer. And then the final piece here is I just learned how to make a sweatshirt jacket out of a sweatshirt, make a jacket out of a sweatshirt. And so it is quilted. And inside the jacket, I put a label on it, and I did it as from inspiration from Miss Rhonda on. I have an embroidery machine. I don't know how to use it, but I use the font on my sewing machine, and that was the first time that I've done that. So I got inspiration from you, Miss Rhonda, to try something new. So I'm always interested in trying new things. Sometimes I get stuck in just doing things the way I always do it because it's just easier. But this time I decided the other night at the ninth hour to try to use the font on my sewing machine to create this label. So the label's on the inside of the jacket, obviously. And Obapa in Ghanaian, I don't know but from in Ghana, the word Obapa means good woman, and so that print with the green circles and the flower, it's a flower. That's what it said online on Google. When I Googled that print, that's what it said it means. So I decided to just put that as a label on the inside of the jacket. And so, like I said, I tried different techniques, different things, and but it is important to label. As far as legacy is concerned, I, whoever sees my work, or if my children takes it or whatever, they'll, I guess, learn that I'm a woman of faith and the things that are important to me. I love butterflies because that was something that was my mother's favorite, and so that became my kind of logo that I attached to everything. And yeah, so that's just what I do. And I just hope that whoever sees the work going forward, they'll get to know a little bit about me as the quilter or the creator of whatever I've created. And so I think it's important to label for sure. For sure, it's important to label. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I think there might be some comments. So a question was, are the someone had a question in our chat, are the labels on the back or the front? So the labels are on the back of the quilt.
Mine are on the back.
Yes, everyone usually puts theirs on the back. So that was one of the questions from one.
And for some reason, I put mine on the
Right side.
most of the time they're on the right side, the
Yes.
bottom right. The bottom right. I don't know why.
Mine as well. Mine as well. And I was actually told when I first started quilting that you put it on the right. So I've just continued.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I think just somebody decided
Mine's
that.
the opposite.
See,
I'm on the
everybody.
left.
Oh, okay.
You're on the left, Rhonda.
Yeah, she said her.
Nobody didn't tell me.
Yeah. You know what? I'm directionally challenged. So when I have the quilt flipped on the back and I'm looking at it, so you're saying that when you're looking at the quilt, you put it on your right side.
From the back, from the back. When you
On the
have it on the
back.
back, you put it on the right side.
Yeah.
And you know, I attended a lot of quilt shows in my early, quilting at the International Quilt Festival. And so many times you would have the teachers would have a trunk show. So they would have, 20, 25 of their quilts that they showed you, after you did your class or whatever. And that's where everybody, all of them, they all had them on the right side. And so I just continued the tradition. And when I started teaching, I just told my students to put it on the right side. So I think it's wherever it fits, for you. I just think that was kind of the standard back in the day. But, I think wherever, just my thing is just to put something there.
Put something on there.
Put something there. Doesn't matter where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jerry, I actually did read that too.
Mhm.
And I was doing some research on labeling, and they actually did suggest, I would say, that the labels are on the bottom right hand side. And so I don't know, but I think anywhere you put them, as long as it's where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, I've put it in the middle. Well, like I said, because I do art quilts, the labels are going in the middle of the piece, on the left, on the right. I don't know. I just put it wherever.
But I will also mention is that when you're doing a competition or you're submitting something, a lot of times when they're telling you how to do your frame at the top, how do you do that label being 4 inches, they'll
Mhm.
also tell you to put your label on the back. Because I've submitted some things, different places, and that's what they ask us to do. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's all good information, and we share this information based on our experience or our understanding of things to help those that are watching these series, and because everybody can glean something from a discussion. And so
Right.
we just do our best to try to share our basic knowledge when we are having these chats on Wednesdays, just to help keep the community, the quilting community engaged. And yeah, so I appreciate whatever we can learn, like I said, and get inspiration from other people.
And I
So
might add this, Lisa, to what you're saying is that we are creatives. And so there's no standard when you're creating something. You know what I'm saying? There's no, label police walking around telling you need to do a certain label. And so I think and you notice other artists, whether they're, the paint or whether they're sculpture, it's based on your creativity. And so I
Mhm.
think at any time, while there are rules that, are standards sometimes, I think the beauty of what we create is because it's what from our creative mind and heart and spirit. And I think that's the whole thing is that, yeah, we can see what everybody else is doing, beautiful labels. But at the end of the day, it's, what are you creating for your own space that brings you joy?
Brings you joy.
And it's very personal. I
Mhm.
Yes.
just believe it's personal. Whatever is important to you, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, I am the beholder. And
Amen.
so what is beautiful to me may not be beautiful to someone else. So I think it's the spirit of creativity. And that's one of the things that I like about sewing, period. As Rhonda said, she's a seamstress and I am too. I always know that I will never see someone walking towards me that's my twin. I will not see it. And
You're
so when
right.
I sew for that reason because I don't want
Hmm.
anybody to look like me.
Mhm.
And so with quilting, it's the same thing. It's like when Miriam threw out that challenge, I might have done pink and green and all of my queens, but everybody did different colors and different styles. So we still end up with something very different, although there's a central theme
Mhm.
that might be running through it. So I've learned a lot today just listening to you all.
Yes.
So I appreciate it.
And I have a question. There was a question in the chat that says, your work is beautiful. Everyone's is. But what kind of machine do you have for your embroidery, Rhonda?
I have two brothers. Basically, all my machines are brothers, except for my HD9. That's a genomic. That's the industrial machine.
Okay, good. So hopefully the person that asked the question will
Mhm.
receive that answer. I have a comment that says, I am so impressed and am learning so much about the importance of the label. Thank you for sharing this information. So that was a comment that was made in the chat. And let's see what else. Everyone said beautiful work. And the it was a question to ask if the QR codes give additional information about the quilt too. And the answer to that is no. The QR codes are usually music of some sort. I can't sing, but I love music and music speaks to my soul. So I put it on my quilts because it's in relationship to whatever the quilt is. And so I put
Mm.
usually gospel music, Christian music, praise and worship music of some sort. So no, it doesn't talk about the quilt itself. That's answering the question that was in the chat. And really nice, beautiful quilt ladies. And it says, someone commented, said the guess that the quilt labels becomes a part of your individual style. So yes, that seems to be the way because like I said, Rhonda, do you ever you always do yours in embroidery? You always embroider yours?
I always do my
Yeah.
embroidery.
Yeah, so that's your style.
That's my yes.
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
Hmm.
And someone said, thank you, Rhonda. I'm not a quilter. I sew clothes, but appreciate the fabulous work quilters do. And someone said, oh, someone said that I add an artist statement in a QR code. So whoever
Mm.
this person is, they do QR
Okay.
codes as well, but they add their
Oh.
artist statement. So I think what I need to learn how to do going forward is really learn to add more information probably on my quilt labels because a lot of times or on the labels that I make, a lot of times I'll just put my name and maybe like the title of the piece and date it. But I never really say, I guess because I've pieced and quilted everything on my own, I've never had anything sent out. I generally don't work from a pattern but if I do a pattern, now I know I need to give credit for like if I bought a pattern, say. So this was a learning lesson for me as well to try to you know, do a little better or word my quilt labels a little differently sometimes. And yeah, and so it was definitely informative. And I appreciate everybody's input on
Mm.
this chat today. And it looks like the folks that are watching were blessed by our work and our conversation. And I really appreciate you ladies being with me today. And
Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa,
Thanks for the
I just
invitation.
wanted to say too
mm,
that a friend of mine, we sort of put this quilt together. Uh, I was the visionary. I'm the designer, and she did the actual quilting. So she quilted the label. She embroidered the label into the backing.
mhm,
And so it was large. I mean, the quilt was large, and she used sort of the middle, I would say, the middle section of the bottom of that quilt, and she actually embroidered everything she wanted to say. For example, she said designed by Wanita Armbruster, hand piece by this one, embroidered by this one, and
Mhm.
then what the name of our quilt was celebration of something. And she did all of that in embroidery on the backing
Mhm.
before
Mhm.
she added it to the actual quilt. And I thought that was really ingenious because it won't fade, can't take it out. It's there,
Mhm.
right there. Yes.
yeah, that's a nice idea. Maybe one of these days I'll learn how to use the embroidery module that I have with
Me
my
too.
machine.
Mhm.
One day. And actually, I was trying to learn it like in 5 minutes, but it's like, Lisa, what are you crazy? So, so that's why I ended up just getting the fonts on the machine that it had, you know, for that last piece. But it's all good, you know. I'll get it together. But I just got a message to ask that let me see. I'm sorry, I gotta read it. It's on my phone. So it says to join us for a YouTube live stream hosted by the Nigerian Quilt Guild. And it's going to be okay. All right now. Um it says quilting as a lifelong passion featuring special guest Jerry Cook. All right now. And so the date is tomorrow, May 7th, Thursday at 8 p.m. West African time, but that's 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's 3 p.m.
Central.
Yeah, well, it'd be
Okay.
3 p.m. Eastern time, right,
3
Jerry?
p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Mhm.
It will be a conversation, a discussion featuring our very own Jerry Cook. So if our schedule permits, I'm sure there'll be made mention on Facebook, maybe YouTube. It'll be out there. And so this is part of the Nigerian Quilt Guild. Yes.
Mhm.
So hopefully we all can join in tomorrow so we can hear the wonderful things that Miss Jerry has to say, and I'm sure it will be a blessing to all those that can listen in. So once again, I thank you ladies so very, very much. I appreciate your patience with my little technical challenge, but we're here. We did what we had to do, and I hope that everyone was blessed by us being here today. So take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we'll see each other again soon. Hopefully
Okay.
tomorrow.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you
All right,
again.
thank you,
Thanks. Bye.
All
everybody.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay.